Hi everybody, my name's Sean Connors and welcome back to Outsiders. I'm doing another video tonight. It's one of my DM's tips videos. I'm going to go into even more depth now, guys, on one of my favourite subjects. You will hear strange noises in the background. This is not a gremlin. This is a boggle. This is Paige. She's near me, she's staring at me, and she is without doubt one of the greatest motivators. I can't put her on the camera for obvious legal reasons. However, Paigey is our mini DM. She's a mini me, really. So you will hear strange noises, bear that in mind. So, without further ado, let's quickly recover some ground that we've already talked on before. This is all about communication. Now, we've talked about this in many ways. We've talked about it in terms of tonality. We've talked about it in terms of voice. All those sort of things. So I'm going to bring the whole thing together tonight and really go in depth. So for all those people who've been waiting for me to do another DM's Tips program, hey, it's back, okay? And boy, have I got some exciting information and stuff to share with you. But this is the first. So without further ado, communication. Now, a lot of people don't realise about communication that, funny enough, when you consult any good textbooks or any great business or anybody who's really into the subject of communication, actors and various people who make a living through it, they will all tell you the same thing. And this is a factual thing, that only 10%, if you imagine a pie chart, 10% of the pie chart is your voice. Now think about that for a second. Just take a moment out. So only 10% is what people take on. When I talk about communication, is what they actually hear. So they hear you, they hear what you're saying, but that actually only forms 10% of how you communicate. The other two parts are the most interesting, and some of we've covered in videos. So you've got the non-verbal part next. So the non-verbal part is things like your hand gestures, the way that you phrase things, the pauses that you have. The verbal component side, above using your voice, is things like how you speak, your tonality, how you throw your voice out, those sort of things. So there's three facets in communication that are important. Now you've got voice is only that tiny little spectrum, and the other two form the great chart. It's very even between them. So suddenly, if you start thinking about this in great, and I really sat back and I thought about this a lot. So when I'm DMing, 10%, when you talk about memorable games, if everything I'm saying only formulates 10% of the reason why people get what I'm saying, and it's everything else, then why is it that my players have stuck with me? What is it that's made people come back? Why are we regarded by these people, and hopefully some of you, as a good DM? What is it that separates us? And I think it's because there's passion, there's belief, there's experience. These things show through your mannerisms. And there's far more as well. I know how to place arrangement. These are the non-verbal parts. Where to sit people around the table. How to bring in the quieter people. How to make sure that when I'm conducting my game, I don't stay like I am here, which I have to do, in one place. I will move around that table. I will bang my hand on that table. I will gesture. I will put the voices on. All those things formulate their memories of your game. And that is why it's so critical that we look at the deeper communication of what role-playing is. And remember that if only 10% is verbal and the other parts formulate the real communication pie, the real communication actual story, that is why it doesn't matter how great my descriptions are. I mean, you think about that for a minute. You think, wow, so really I could be the best storyteller in the world. I could tell great stories. I can do all those wonderful things. But it's only 10% of what actually is. It's only 10% of what actually is communication. So everything else really goes into making people's memories and their stories. And that is why it is so important to get right. And let's look at that in a slightly different way. I want to try and draw you in here and make you realise why what I'm saying is so right and very accurate. If you have a young child and you go to that young child and you say to them, 5 or 6 year old, you say, tell me darling, tell me about your day, what was it like? That child will go on and on and on about what they did in the first few moments of the day. They could go on for hours about their day. I did this at school, I did that at school and the rest. Now, as you get older, if you do the same to somebody you know at work or someone else, imagine the question, if I went up to someone and said, how's your weekend? Somebody I work with or whatever I'm doing, you did the same. You're probably going to get an answer very similar to this. yeah, it was all right, Sean. I went and saw the football, and that's probably all you're going to get. I might have to ask more. You know, what did you do? Who did you go with? But they're not going to volunteer very much information because adults have learnt a long time ago that they don't have to spout on loads of information. They just bring it to the simple point and communicate it across. Now, as a DM, it's really critical that you understand, and we've talked about this before, about how to actually get your players to open up. And here's a tip for you, and this is one of the great tips of communication I've found over the years. I told you before in my videos that I'm my own worst critic. I'm my greatest critic. That is true, but I use that to my advantage, and it's something you can use as well, because all my players know, and I'm letting a big secret out of the bag here, all my players know that I am one of those people that will beat myself up, but equally, I will always turn to them and I will say things like, I'll phone up one of my friends and Pete, and I will say, listen, Pete, he will say to me, Sean, it was a great game we had this Friday, brilliant game, I really enjoyed it, and he'll give me some reasons why, because Pete's like that, he's one of the rare players that will. And I will always turn around to Pete and I will, particularly if I'm looking for feedback, more feedback from Pete, I'll say to Pete, you know what, mate, I really don't think it was a good game. I don't think I really did very well because I thought my descriptions were poor. I didn't think I really interacted very well with the players. I could have done this and I could have done that. So I'm already beating myself up, and I know full well what Pete will do. And your players will do the same. Pete will say, Sean, no, you did this and you did that and you did the rest. Without knowing it, I've played Pete into the position I want him. I want that information from him. I want that information from my players, and I know you do too. And the only way you're going to get it sometimes is understanding the whole picture of what communication is all about and opening your players up. Use some reverse psychology on them and say, I'm really sorry about the last session. It wasn't as good as it could have been. I think I could have done this better. I could have done that better. What do you think? And you'll be amazed at the answers you get. And not only that, because you've opened up with your players, they're going to trust you, they're going to believe in you, and the other thing that they're going to do is they're going to make your games better because they're going to tell you the things that you do well, and equally they're going to give you advice on things you could do better. And you're going to find that, interestingly enough, it's not about the descriptions, and more often than not, it's not even about the story. It's the far more subtle things that communication is, and that is what your game will become. Anyway, I've been Sean Connors. This has been Outsiders. This has been Communication, the Deeper Picture. Thank you for listening. Welcome back to my channel. Happy gaming, and see you next time. All the best.